If you follow Tokyo on Fire, you know that the Prime Minister spent the last 3 months of last year doing international travel, visiting countries throughout the world. And now he's back in town, and we predicted that he would be pursuing some of these, but lining things up for an election in the summer. He came out just recently and acknowledged the role of the Japanese military in a comfort women issue. This is the use of military brothels during World War II. It's really made the relations between South Korea and North Korea too, and Japan very, very tough. And he's kind of opened the gates here. He's made an acknowledgement and a payment of some substantial amount of money to go to the survivors. Michael, this is a pretty big deal. He wants it to be conclusive. It doesn't look like it's going to be completely conclusive, but it's opened the door for Japanese and Korean relations. It looks like it's on a different foot right now.
Yeah, we're seeing a big difference between the ground and the elites in terms of how this is being played out. For Abe's supporters, this is the ultimate betrayal. He's not only acknowledged that the military had some relationship, but they're going to pay money. And they're going to pay money before, and this is the kicker, there's this statue in front of the Japanese embassy in Seoul, which is, according to Abe's very close supporters, an absolute violation of the Vienna Conventions, that you cannot have a humiliating or insulting environment for a diplomatic mission.
And it's a depiction of one of the comfort
women looking right at the embassy. And is there 24 hours a day and is all lit up and is gold and all this. So that the government has made a deal where it's paying money, making an acknowledgement, and does not have a guaranteed removal of the statue. For them is betrayal. On the Korean side, the fact that they've got an agreement, but that the Japanese government says we're not legally responsible, and there's not going to be a written agreement.
Right.
There's nothing in writing. You just have to take our word for it. That has some of the surviving comfort women saying there's no deal here.
I think, too, the problem has been that there was a lack of involvement from any of the protesting groups or representatives for these very aging comfort women. So you have the scenario of this week in Tokyo, 2 of them arriving at Haneda, wanting to have a meeting, of course, with Abe, which they didn't have. But every time that happens, it sort of keeps the issue out there. And it comes across as if the Japanese government is just waiting for these women to die off. I mean, their numbers are in decline. But a lot of the women's groups were just adamantly opposed to this because they said, we didn't have a seat at the table. This always comes up in UN when they have General Assembly meetings, and if you don't have the non-governmental groups represented, it then opens the door to them having a shadow conference of their own. So I think that's sort of a terrible part of this, that they didn't work this out with all the groups, maybe because they realized they couldn't appease those groups regardless. As far as
that's the argument that even South Korean diplomats will probably make, that if we get the women's groups and the activist groups involved, there's no deal ever.
That's right.
And that the issues are so important to having in a geopolitical sense that we do this ad hoc, off the books, money, sort of an apology, and we move on.
We move on.
And I suppose as far as the art piece or the statue in front of the embassy, this is really an outrageous thought. But imagine if Abe actually came and had his Willy Brandt moment and laid down some flowers. I wonder if that would make any difference, because, of course, the group that put the statue there, they said, we're never going to take it away. So you can go forward with your deal, but we're going to leave it. And it's not right in front of the entrance, from what I know. But we know that that's not going to happen. He's not going to, because as you say, Michael, he's getting a lot of flack from his core supporters for even acknowledging that they had to come to this agreement. The fact that he had to even mention that the comfort women issue was a problem for Japan.
But one member of the Diet actually, in conversation, in public conversation, said these women were not victims, they were common prostitutes, and wow, did the establishment come down on him fast? He within not hours, but at least a day or so, he repudiated his own remarks. He said, "Oh, I was speaking. I was completely out of my mind." Wow, they really want, the establishment really wants this to happen.
And you know, I tweeted about that, and that was a little bit of semantics going on there, because these women, once they were enslaved and were in this sex industry, they were deemed prostitutes. So even if they were forced into it, that was their image afterwards, that they are just lowlifes. So his use, he would say, well, that was the kind of woman we had here who was being repeatedly raped. Then she is like a prostitute. It's very sad.
Well, I think it's a brave step forward for the Prime Minister, and as we predicted on this show, you will continue to see the Prime Minister making really significant steps geopolitically with his closest neighbors. He identified Korea as its most important strategic partner in the region. Stay tuned, because we will watch this too.